Hey guys, welcome back. The Vulcan. I think we and I'm Julian, and he's Haze.
There's Haze. This is how you do a disco.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like.
Can you do it like this? Wait, hang on. I used to be able to do it with both, but I can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
it's not hard. Yeah.
I think he was probably not doing it for copyright reasons. Let's be honest.
Please, no one would have sued him for it.
But
still.
I think we called it pretty closely. I was a bit. Someone pointed out to me today from SCA. They said, "Oh, I called it. It was about drones," and I was like, "Yeah, you did." And I said that it would be possibly a repair ship and multi-role and small or medium. So yeah,
I particularly called the drones.
Yeah, you did. You did as well. So, but I got contacted by Ben, so he'll probably be in chat in a minute to harass me about that. Yep. So Tony's already saying in chat that he's caved and got one. One of the things I do want to go over, so what we're going to go over today is I think what we think of the ship, where we think its place is, but one of the things I really want to go over, and I think this is one of the things that they don't ever really bring up because they're trying to sell you these ships, is what are the negative side effects of this ship, and what I mean by that, we'll go over it later. We'll start with the positive stuff first, but
I have to say though, it's another Terrapin. It doesn't have any weapons.
Yeah, it's a Terrapin vibe. I just went, oh, it's the Aegis Terrapin. Like, it's even got that hunkered down turtle look, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks heavily armored, doesn't it? Like, I guess that's it's supposed to be a anvil design, but this is an Aegis. Like, they've got themselves confused again.
And it even has the thing that comes over the window, like the Terrapin. Yeah. So I was like, is it just stolen the personality of the Terrapin?
Originally the Terrapin was supposed to be an Aegis ship, and then they changed their mind.
Yeah. Yeah, look, well, I can see why they changed it, but I think there's a reason why this is an Aegis ship. You can tell it's really far along. I think it is most definitely the ship that they are
pushing for 3.3.
That's right. That tidbit we pulled out yesterday.
Refueling and repair. Go figure.
The refuel stuff, I am kind of intrigued how they're going to do that. Is that going to be an arm? Is it going to be a drone transfer?
The refueling cable comes out and the drone goes off and puts the thing into the nozzle and fills up the tank.
That'd be awesome.
You know how you used to have people at service stations to do that for you? Well, now that we've got drone.
Yeah, I reckon that'd be pretty cool, actually. But I also, when I saw the fuel tank on the bottom during ATV, I was like, oh, I wonder if that, like, can you shoot it? It makes it explode more, like. So
they lose all their fuel, the extra fuel.
There was some really weird things though about this ship. First one that kind of comes up to me is, why does it have 4 beds? They say it's a single starter ship, but it's got 4 beds. Do you need 4 beds for a drone ship?
It's definitely got 3 crew. Like, there's 2 drone stations and a pilot. And a 4th person can easily be an engineer or a navigator or something else, you know? It makes sense. And you've got the 2 turrets, remote turrets, so, 4 people's not a stretch.
Yeah, and I find it really interesting price position-wise because it's basically, let's call it Terrapin level. What was the Terrapin? 195 for the Terrapin?
You're 195 for the Terrapin and 185 for this, unless you got taxes to pay like us.
Yeah, but why is it cheaper than the Terrapin? Why? I don't get that. Like, it's bigger. It's got
mind
more
you,
crew.
That's the Warbond price.
Yeah.
Terrapin came in before Warband into price. So, the credit version price is probably going to be upwards of a Terrapin. That makes sense.
I still don't understand why it's not 250. I don't know. Like, I look at this,
because they only do that to combat ships. Oh, damn.
Yeah, pretty much it. Because the ship that I look at to me, that's at a 2 is the Vanguard. I look at the Vanguard next to this and I go, the only thing the Vanguard have is the combat. But I think you'd make more money with this, but that's just me. Yeah, it's an interesting ship. So the look's kind of cool. I guess a negative of it though is I think it really steals a lot from the Terrapin. I'm kind of a bit disappointed with that. But I think they've definitely gone, we need to make a ship quickly, so let's make it Aegis. Let's use a lot of the reclaimer assets, and I can understand their reasoning for it. One other negative is this is the first time they've brought back uniforms since I don't know how long you've been around, obviously.
I haven't been around for the uniform,
but they
stuff.
They had exclusive uniforms and exclusive items come out before, and I'm talking about like guns, brown coats, racing suits, that type of thing, and it really ticked a lot of people off because you felt like you had to buy the entire ship to get that uniform, and there was a lot of collectomaniac people.
As a caveat to this, you'll probably get this uniform and stuff before you see any of the older ones that were put out.
Possibly.
Which is because this is obviously pushing for a quick release.
It's definitely a quick release, and the reason you know that is when you go, it mentions these two skins, there's pictures of them right there. So this ship is a lot further along than I think most people realize.
Because this covers the mechanics that they want in a smaller ship, and then they have the bigger ships already, of course, because well, not the repair one so much, but the refueling for sure. Yeah. Starfarer. So, we said they needed a ship like this to test for these things, and they needed the industry ship and the new mechanics coming in. So this is no surprise. The really most interesting aspect, and let's go cover some of the positives, because I've got shitloads of them.
Yeah, the drones. Go for it. Go. I want positives.
Drones is incredibly interesting, not because it's doing a repair and maybe a refueling aspect and a rearming aspect, which is really interesting. The simple fact that we know there's going to be drones for things like salvage. There's going to be drones for mining. There's going to be drones for who knows what else, like maybe sensor drones for the Carrack that go off, ahead of and just do a simple surveying or sensor sweeping. At the end of the day, we know there's only going to be all these drones with very specific purposes, but then people say, oh, you can't do mining because how are you going to call the mining when it's got no cargo? That's what cargo ships are for. That's what hauls are for. Suddenly, you pair a hauler with this ship, which is like a damn multi-tool. It's a Swiss Army knife. Yeah. This becomes a really interesting ship because it really can dabble in all those different industries, have a very good stab at them compared to ships of the same size, and suddenly opens up all these doors. Multi-use.
I agree with everything you've kind of said there. I can see different drones coming in and being used in different places. The weak part of this ship in the title for me is the rearming, because to me, isn't the rearm just taking cargo from the cargo hold and putting into other people's cargo hold for weapons?
I imagine they might load up the drones with ammunition and take it out to the ship.
And what, does it walk up to the actual gun and...
Must do, yeah, rearm it.
It sounds weird to me. It sounds more like you have ammo in your cargo, and you just like a drone will pick it up from your cargo bay and take it to their cargo bay. That seems to me.
Well, a lot of ships don't have cargo bays. Like, what if you want to rearm a Hornet or a Vanguard?
That's a good point too. It could walk up and redo the ammo box. Yeah. I just find it the weaker part of this ship because they didn't detail it. I'm still going to learn more in the Q&A. So if we do a show
another interesting thing is the because it's a refueler and it has a dedicated refueling tank, this thing would be particularly medium to long range for a ship of its size.
Yep.
That makes it even more interesting because you think about that, this thing's almost an explorer. You can go down to a planet and do just a sample mine, or just have a quick explore. It has that room in the back. You put a dragonfly in this.
Weak scanners will be the killer on it.
But a scanner on a drone.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. It's interesting. There are a lot of possibilities, and it does come down to how configurable they make it.
I think this thing can do everything a Cutlass can better, except fight.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like I said yesterday, and I'm surprised they haven't mentioned it. You're obviously its two big brother ships would be obviously the Starfarer and the Crucible. But I don't think this will ever get
maybe
close
Granddaddy.
Let's play on the negatives then, right? So if you're repairing a ship, how quickly will this ship repair ships? And if you look at something like Cryostro...
They've said light repairs only.
Light repairs only.
And limited rearming, and just enough fuel to get you back to where you be. So it's not a complete top-off.
Yeah, I see this guy like in Australia it's called RSAT, or what they said, or a AA or a AAA type of roadside vehicle. That is literally what I see. This guy gets you up just to get you back to a planet.
I think that too. It's a roadside vehicle.
Yeah. but as you said, the drones really make this a jack of all trades. I think it comes back to the master of none thing, though, because it is such a small ship. Unless you had a utter bucket load of them, I don't see it repairing, say, something like a Constellation. You know, like
well, maybe enough that they could get off by themselves if they
you could get it repaired so it could warp back. Yes, I agree with that. But like not bringing like I'm in a combat situation, I don't see a whole heap of them repairing stuff.
It's a rescue vehicle, really is. You know,
and definitely anything bigger like Constellation size and up, you're really going to be looking at a Crucible. It's a starter, and this is what I mean by the negatives. They don't go, oh, so if you want this ship, this is what it's good for. They just give you all the positives. They don't go, well, this is its cutoff, and then all of a sudden this ship replaces that one. So it does have a limited lifespan, and I think the thing that makes this ship non-redundant, as you and I usually use the word redundant, is the drones. They are its saving grace.
It's its saving grace because, look, at the end of the day, you got a Constellation. It's a jack of all trades, but is it going to be as good as salvage as this thing with a holo? Is it going to be good as repairing in a Constellation, or is it going to be good at mining as a Constellation? At the end of the day, this thing has a multi-role tool set that's better than other ships that are larger than it, unless they're specialized in just that sort of ability. So if you put this with a hull B and you start mining or doing some salvage, the only thing that's going to beat it is something that's only meant to do just that. Or it's, you know, pretty much, or much bigger ship.
I think one other thing this kind of said to me today was, you know, when we were talking about how many different numbers of ships in roles they're going to bring in, I think this is kind of clearly stated, we're not going to get another repair ship. These are the two. You go, because if you look at what this is capable of doing, and I honestly thought a smaller ship would be a little bit lower down the line, but this is actually, with the drones, in my opinion,
I think it's more powerful.
It's more powerful than I expected.
Refuel and rearming to a limited extent gives it much more options. And, you know, I imagine even military people would prefer to get a bit of fuel and a bit of ammo and do some light repairs over, you know, having separate ships just to do each of those things separately, like a Starfarer, a Crucible, and, you know, who knows where they're getting the ammo from. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's a well-positioned ship. And I think for smaller operations, like with just a couple of people, it might be the ideal ship to bring along.
I think it would be really ideal for like a small group of fighters. But in a, say you're going out with your Polaris and a small group of fighters, I'd still take a Crucible because it's got that bay and it would just push the speed of repair up drastically. I'd say the
Polaris completely takes over the refueling, rearming, and repair role of this ship.
Well, I guess you can repair by hand, but I'm thinking more like if you had the Crucible there and you're in a combat situation,
this ship is not going to repair a Polaris. Let's just put that out there. It's not going to replace the Crucible.
What I mean is with the Crucible, because it's got that docking spot for the, say, a Super Hornet lands in it, it brings out its arms and it repairs at a much faster rate than just repair tools can or drones can.
But it's also got the cargo to be able to keep the spare parts. So if you've shot out a part, you can say, we're not even going to bother to repair this. We'll swap. We'll hot swap.
If the Polaris, though, is just hand tool repair in a hangar, then I still think the drones are going to beat it. Which is not if what it's really got surprises me.
It's got the cargo to put several fighters worth of equipment in with shields and engines and all the components. And you could, if several components were severely damaged, that's more powerful.
Specifically mentioning just repair. So if you kind of look at it, you've got your three levels. You've got your hand tools, your drones, and then obviously the Crucible repair arms. So in a repair situation, that's your preference order. So,
but who's to say that you can't put these drones in a hangar? Because they've talked about
it. Looks like they need maintenance though. Like, do you see the way they come in and they rotate around so you can reconfigure them? I think the reconfiguring when they come back and you know how they do three different things. I don't think that's an automatic process. I think someone's got to be there to change them. It's
You're
almost
probably
like
right. That gives gameplay.
it almost looks like a car being put up on hoists. I don't know how it looks. When you look there, there's like a little railing that it slides into and it rotates on.
When you talk about hangar repairs, what's to stop you having 2 or 3 drones in an Idris landing bay? Nothing. It's perfect for that.
Again, we don't. Yeah, but you got to have an Idris with the. This is unknown gameplay. I can't make comments on that because I just don't know what it's going to be. Like, yeah, if you can have drones just sitting in a cargo bay, yeah. But if you've got to have drones that need machinery to run them, so let's look at the ships. The 2 ships we know about are the Reclaimer and this new one, the Vulcan.
And the
there might actually be systems on those ships, and the Carrack, sorry, my bad, that's true, on them that are required to operate drones. So yeah, you might be able to carry drones as cargo, but if you don't have the AI to run them, they might have what they call them,
I'm pretty sure those
systems.
big ships will have the computer systems to be able to do that there.
Again, because of gameplay, they might do things that limit that. You might have to give up something on a big ship to have drones.
It's still from a gameplay perspective, not being able to do light repairs, or at least be as good as, if not better than, one of these ships, like an Idris, especially when it's supposed to service fighters. I just don't see that happening. Yeah.
Wait and see on that one. Tony's just mentioned there repair, arming, mining, and fueling modules for the Argo. I can actually see a repair arm on the Argo. I think it would be pretty cool, actually.
I hope they still go with that idea. It was an idea they touted in the past. Hope that continues on and makes it out.
What's the utility view for the Idris? It makes sense to me for them to be able to go outside and do repairs and stuff like that on the fly.
Yeah, there might be a big hole from a torpedo and they just want to patch it over.
Yep, simple. Even if it's like at its most simple level, let's be honest, you fly out there with the Argo, you get out, you EVA across, and you hand retool it up. I'm going to sneeze.
Sorry. Get it over with.
We'll see. I'll hold it. See how long it go. Yeah, like it's just a weird.
I think it's the ship they needed.
It is a ship that we needed. Makes me think though, what other ones are coming down the pipe? Like, what other multiple roles can you see? And that one.
I was disappointed it was an Aegis ship. It's like, not another Aegis ship. Ah!
I think anyone you talk to will agree with you. Super disappointed it was Aegis, but
I think it's just
they need this ship quickly.
Already.
It's going to hold stuff up if it's not. And the only one that's really flushed out is Aegis. Like,
well, even when they're doing the Terrapin, they said that they only just got the Star Guide for Anvil going, and it's still sort of under development. It's not that easy for them to spit out big ships with Anvil.
Run it through in your head. What other companies could it be?
It should have been Anvil. It really should have.
Anvil's the one that jumps out at me because of the military nature of it. But you could have.
And it's like a Terrapin, and this is another repair ship.
I could stretch it to Consolidated Outland because of the repair nature of it.
And the drones,
And the drones. But when you kind of go across the board, when you look at Anvil and you look at Consolidated, their art style is just not there. And they need this ship by 3.3. They needed it. Like, it needed.
This is another one of those you buy now, you'll see it in 6 months, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's similar to the Nox last year, isn't it? In a way, but it's twice the size, or heaps bigger than Nox. Look, I think that there's a lot of positives to this ship. I think people just need to realize going in, they're getting a ship that does a lot. But the thing that's going to lock this ship or slow this ship down is the content, as in the.
Oh, there's tons of content though.
When I mean content, is the content's not the right word. Amount that it can do. So you're putting it next to a Crucible. Like a Crucible's going to do it at 20 times the speed.
Compare this to a Cutlass. It's around the same size as a Cutlass. It can do all the same things a Cutlass can. It just defanged, and you put on a bunch of arm drones instead. You know,
actually, I can see it very clearly sitting next to the Cutlass in a way. That's an interesting choice that you've picked there. It's you're kind of giving up combat for drones. But
it's the little Cutlass that lots of fangs, but it can do anything. Yeah,
and it's,
literally,
it's got a smaller cargo bay.
But it can still fit a ground vehicle or two. It looked like at least fit one ground vehicle. And those drones give it a lot
12
of power.
SCUs, but it was a kind of a high. I don't think it's deep enough for a Nox, personally.
I think a Dragonfly.
I'm
Range
gonna
is
say I disagree
definitely-
with that from what I saw of the grey box video at the start of
They'll
ATV.
definitely answer that in the Q&A. What can fit inside it? You know, they'll probably say a
It'll be
Dragonfly.
there. It'll be
Yeah.
there. But yeah, I personally think it's a little bit too small. But
I think they did that on purpose. It has great utility, but then if you want cargo to be able to use with that utility, you need to bring on a dedicated hauler.
yeah,
And that makes sense.
makes sense to me.
Because you don't want one ship that's great at everything. You want something that needs another ship's support.
That's the funny thing. Every time these, the ship does multiple things come up, people just want it to do everything. And unfortunately, it doesn't make great gameplay. Like, in a weird way, negatives can be strengths. So, by you not being able to do a certain thing, it means that you've got to rely on someone else, and therefore you get an instant socialization with other people, and the game becomes more deep, and it moves forward that way.
This is a small ship that works well with other medium ships.
Yep.
I think it's a very strong area there. It will see a lot of use. I think one of its main faults, though, is that it's not a ship that works well with other larger ships. This ship is meant to service and help out small to medium ships, but as soon as you get into larger ship pairings,
it's like what the Crucible. It's to the Crucible what the Hammerhead is to the Polaris type of thing, where the Polaris is it and all the ships above it, and it's the Hammerhead's it and all the ships below it. This is kind of like the one for the smaller ships, and then you've kind of got the Crucible that's for the larger ships. That's where I see it realistically sitting. I don't think it'll ever, and then if you look at the Starfarer, that's the other part we haven't talked about. The Starfarer makes fuel. This thing just carries it. That's it.
Yeah.
So
the Starfarer's got the range, the fuel. It's all in one mega factory. It's amazing.
This thing doesn't have the cargo space to hold a lot of materials to repair, where the Crucible will have that, and it can do massive ships, and it's got a dock for them to land in the laser arms. It's very clearly not a master.
The ship will not compete with any of the masters who focus on a specialty.
Yep.
But you know what? As an everyday runner ship, like small amounts of cargo, doing a little bit of exploration, has a little bit of range. The drones give you a lot of, I can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's very strong as a daily driver, small ship. It has many different options. But when you start thinking of, will it compete with highly focused alternatives that only do that thing really well? It's no, it won't. But it is interesting ship.
There's a question in chat by Moosebeard that says, do you think it will be capable of doing salvage? If I had to say this ship would be capable of doing salvage, almost any ship's capable of doing salvage. How would it be like doing salvage? I think it'll be akin to the Vulture, where it can bring things into its cargo bay, and that's it. It can use the drones. You can have salvage drones, obviously, and it'll speed up the process.
This might have killed the Vulture, to be honest.
Yeah, in a way, it could.
Because it may have limited cargo, but the Vulture would have even worse limited cargo. And that little rig that you get in for salvage, this has dedicated drones instead. That's even better as far as I'm concerned.
If this is refuel and repair, then I think they'd make another ship about the same size that would be like salvage and mining. That makes sense to me.
Maybe. And with a bit more storage.
Well, I would do the thing that Dyson kind of came up with, the trash compacting type thing. So
the Wall-E cubes, absolutely.
Yeah, the Wall-E cubes. I think that Wall-E, he really hit that. My mind went, that epiphany moment when he said that. I went, oh, that just makes so much sense. Because the advantage that has straight off the bat is it just can carry more than a normal ship. That's a positive. And if you look at that ship with this, you could have drones on that ship, but those drones are mining drones or salvage drones, where this ship has repair drones or rearming or refueling drones. And yeah, you can put the other drones on it, but because this has less cargo space and it wouldn't have the refinery, it's not as good as mining and salvage. And because this ship has what it has, you can see very quickly. You can get ships that they do a lot, and then as soon as they go slightly off their wheelhouse, they can do it, but they can't do it anywhere near as well. I think I can see that as another ship coming. We know we're getting a lot more utility ships this year. They've told us as much. I'm just intrigued to know how many more multi-rolls we're going to get.
Yeah, this is a nice ship, though. I mean, like, you could possibly fit a ground vehicle. You can do a lot of ground-based missions. I mean, other than the fact it doesn't have weapons, it can do a lot of the other sort of, exploration missions, longer-range missions, casual type stuff, not heavy-duty. We're not trying to compete with the Carrack here, or even the Terrapin, but as like the Cutlass is a daily driver, this can also function in that manner.
Look, let's start doing some kind of theory crafting here, because I see this ship. Say you've got you and two mates, right? They're in two prospectors, and you're in this. I can see that working really well. They mine, you pick up the cargo, put it in the back of yours. You might even help them mine a little bit with, say, 2 of your drones, and then you'll have one repair drone and one, refueling drone.
Main problem I see with that is the lack of storage.
Yep. But you'll be running back frequently to drop off the cargo. You'll also be picking up more fuel so they don't have to go back. So you're basically restocking and doing cargo runs while they're just continually mining. And this ship would be of about the right size to be able to, 8 cargo crates?
12 SCU.
No, 12 SCU for the Vulcan, but Prospect has about 8 of those cargo containers, is that correct, from memory? And you'd be able to bring back new cargo containers with you, and then just cycle
Prospect
them.
has way more cargo just from 2 of its pods than what this thing can take.
Oh, really?
So I don't think it's a good...
I thought each pod was only 1 SCU, but okay, I guess I'm wrong.
No, it's a lot more than that.
Oh, okay.
It's I think it had 150 SCU when it fills 4 pods. So it's got fair amount. It'd probably be better with a whole B.
Yeah. Okay.
Something like that. But I do see this working in concert, probably in the reverse order, because it doesn't have cargo. If you used a whole B and maybe did some light mining with this, or maybe just some salvage at another time. The whole thing is the flexibility of rolls. It can do a few things. But who's going to buy this sort of ship, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. This is the thing I find weird about a lot of the small ships. If you have the bigger ships, you're just not inclined. This is the type of thing. If you want it, you'll buy it in game, because I can go out with my Crucible, do a couple of missions, and I'd be able to afford to buy one. Where if you are buying one of these, it's because you don't have one of the larger ones, and you want to kind of work your way up.
You don't think someone buy it just for a fun ship that they can do all the missions in and have fun now? If
you're doing a one-off ship, yeah. I can see it. I actually can see it being more popular than the Terrapin just due to the multi-roll. It's slightly larger. When I look at the Terrapin now, it seems extraordinarily overpriced. I thought it was overpriced when it first came out, but now next to this, it just doesn't make any sense.
When you compare it to the Terrapin, if this is one problem I see with this ship, is this ship, I bring a fleet with me, do I bring this or do I bring something more specialized? I'll probably bring something more specialized. But the Terrapin is one of those ships that works exceptionally well in any fleet, whether it be military or mining or any sort of endeavor, whether you're using it to scan for resources or wrecks or forward scouting in military. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a ship that works so well and links in with other ships to help them. And that really jarred me when we had the guy talking about the Terrapin today. He said, oh, this is a Terrapin you take out by yourself, and it's good at just doing some exploration. And when it comes in and people see Terrapin, it's not very threatening. They think, oh, that's all that's happening. Now I'm thinking, there's a Terrapin off by itself. What the hell is behind it? It's going to slam me in the ass and make me regret being in the same area. It's these guys don't think about
who's coming.
Work with each other. They only think about how you're playing the ship just by yourself.
Yeah.
And that always gets in my mind. I go, these people have no idea how group play mechanics, and how multi-ship fleets. It's not even in these developers' minds. It's one of those facepalm moments. Sorry, I just had to say that. That always gets on my case.
No, I kind of tend to agree with what you said there. I can see that they've done that with a few ships in the past. They just have not, understood why. A really good example is like the Vanguard. They didn't understand why people brought that ship, and then they kind of changed it, and it's become something else. And so many, it was the most popular ship that they ever had, and it's now one of the most discarded ships that I know of. You know, I just...
Most people who are in military are not thinking going around and just blowing shit up. They're thinking of going in teams and formations and wings and squadrons and teamwork.
Your long distance stuff becomes redundant when you move in a group because you're safer in numbers. So therefore, once you do that, the Vanguard really loses a lot of its appeal, and something in the same price point, say the Redeemer, becomes... Now, I know you don't like the Redeemer, but think of it as it could be, becomes way more appealing at that price point. Because it's
Speaking of the Redeemer, I can see the Redeemer crying in the corner going, another 80 ships getting pushed to the front, and there's a little violin playing.
I think while we're talking about the Redeemer, then I think quite quickly, when that is redone, and it probably won't be until sometime next year now, I think it will be surprised by how good it is, because one of the things I've said multiple times is the further along a ship is developed, usually the better it's going to be, because it's got more newer materials, they've learnt from their mistakes, and therefore it becomes a better ship. So it's one ship I'm happy to wait for.
I'm not going to talk about the Redeemer, because I don't even think it's coming out in 2019.
Oh,
okay, I'm not touching this cool with a 10-foot pole. It's like... Not going there.
We'll get back to the Vulcan then. I think it's going to be a really good support ship all around. If you want that support role, like if you... the way I kind of see it in a weird way with repair is it's kind of like what the medic is to humans, it's the medic for ships. And this goes a little further because you're obviously repairing, refueling, and rearming. So it is the medic class.
This is like the Cutlass Red's... younger brother. The Cutlass Red is a medical emergency, and the Vulcan is the technical emergency, where you've run out of fuel, or you're stranded, or you need repairs, run out of ammunition. It's the one that helps you out there, as opposed to the Cutlass Red is going to help you with that head wound you've got, and you're bleeding out, and you think you're going to die otherwise. Wow.
Have a look at that Vulcan though. Oh, what was his name? Director Drake Steele said, Oracle Deep Space Operations, I assume that's his org, is already acquiring 20 to 30 of them to replace a big chunk of our Crucible Starfarers and Reclaimers.
Well, in smaller groups, this ship makes more sense. Like, if you got, 5 to 10 people in a group, they don't need something that large. They need something lighter. They can just take along with them, and it sort of extends their ability to function. It's...
let me check this at you then. Right, so let's look at our Starfarer. What's that? 8 crew. Look at your Crucible, probably 8 crew, and a Reclaimer 8 crew, roughly. They're about that area, aren't they, from memory?
Well, let's say half NPCs, but go on. Yeah.
But when you do that, when you put one Vulcan up against these ships, if you're talking about production rates, this is what I was talking about with negatives. I actually think one Crucible or one Reclaimer will outweigh that almost 10 to 1, right? And you might need 2 or 3 crew on every Vulcan, but let's just say, for argument's sake, you need 3. So 3 Vulcans is the same amount of crew as, say, one of those ships. But this ship, if it's doing 10 times as much, that's still 3 times as much, roughly, than those 3. So I'd be looking at your fleet going, wouldn't replace all of it, but I think...
It has its place.
It definitely has its place.
Holds. The thing is, the Vulcan's going to scale into smaller operations, like, say, 10 to 15 people, a lot more easily than those dedicated ships. And I think there's a lot of groups out there who only plan to play in that scale of groups, and this ship makes a lot more sense.
I don't often do this, but Director Drake Steele, how many people are in your org? Because that really is what's going to be a determining factor, mate. Because if you're talking 200 people, that's a silly idea. If you're talking 10 to 15, then that's probably a great idea.
It depends what sort of a scale the operation is. At the end of the day, this will be better in smaller, medium scale, and large scale things. You'll get to the point where you're like, why don't you have a crucible with you?
You probably want a rule of thirds, or in this case, because a rule of halves. So you kind of want half that, and then half the reclaimers, the starfarers, and whatever. The versatility is going to be your friend here. You know, if you really need fuel, you're going to want to go out with a starfarer and get fuel. And that's the other thing you got to remember, is they still have that added functionality that this doesn't have. So the ability to get fuel on a starfarer is huge. Not just the ability to refuel, but to get it is massive. You know, same thing with the reclaimer. Actually being able to get resources to give to a crucible or to give to a Vulcan is a massive thing as well. And then the actual speed at what you can repair something is a massive factor. Not only that it can hold those resources. I think in time people will get to the...
It comes down to scale. It takes a large scale to make use of those bigger ships. I think he's got a point.
Yeah,
on a smaller scale, it is a very nice ship in a very good position. Personally, would you buy one?
I'm not going to buy one purely because I've got all the bigger ones. And it's like I said, I'm at that point now where I own what I want to kind of own. There's only a few more ships that I possibly would get if they fall into the right roles. I've kind of come to the conclusion, like, it's a ship I really like. I'm not gonna look. It's one of the best ships they've released in a really long time. But because I've got stuff above it, I will earn it in games. That simple. You know, I'll go earn one.
Myself, I'm on the fence. Like, I'm thinking about this ship. When I think about it, I think, will I have fun? Will I use this? Will I make use of it and want to fly it over other ships? And when I think about that, I like the Cutlass Black a lot. Yep. I fly the Cutlass Black a lot. Yep. It does everything you want to do. It's in a really nice place for playing the game. This ship, in the same vein, other than the fact that it's no good at combat, has all those same strengths. And I can see myself using it to have a lot of fun over the next how many ever years until release.
Yeah, it comes back to that question too. Like, if you just want to go, such as me and you want to go out, that's a great ship. But if we've got to go get 6 other people to go out in a reclaimer or whatever, that becomes a huge problem. So
I'm happy they gave me a week to decide on the whole concierge.
Well, it's quite good actually.
I've actually just spent all my money on plane tickets going down to a bar citizen.
Yep.
So giving me that extra time to perhaps, square up some extra funds and, see whether or not I want to buy it. I am grateful for that. It's going to be on sale for like a long time. Like, it's the normal week and a half plus an extra week for concierge. That's, a lot longer than normal.
I think we can finally see why they got rid of the announcing concept stuff. They brought this in instead. And I actually think this is good. Good happy medium. They don't have to give away the surprise. We get a lot longer to buy, which is great.
Time to consider. Like, even those people who can't buy it for another week, they still have more time to decide and think, do I really want to buy this? It's not such a huge mad rush.
Yeah, so I just want to go through one of the things that Director Drake replied with, and he said, when you need them and you fly in bulk, fly in a similar 5 Vulcans with 2 drones each. You could have 10 drones repairing an Idris, while missiles are being shuttled over and busted components swapped off the ship and exchanged by requisition, etc. That is the scenario I see as well, but again, 2 Crucibles could probably do it faster.
You got to remember, the Crucible, it takes its arms off and does these huge giant repair arms, and then it's like a 3D printer and it goes and it actually makes stuff out of raw components.
And there's a cargo bay on the Crucible. What's to stop the Argo going over it, landing in that little landing bay? You fill up the Argo and goes over. So you've got.
I think the Crucible's the most ideal repair thing for an Idris. So I don't think that's the best comparison. If you were talking about repairing a number of smaller craft.
Oh yeah. If he was talking about like 3 Cutlasses, no, chalk and cheese, because you can have 3 Vulcans, 1 apiece. Whereas if you've got 1 Crucible, you're gonna have to swap them through. It is a situational thing, but like we've said, as you upscale, I think you move from one to the other. And here's one. You have a Starfarer, you have a Crucible, and you have a Reclaimer, and you have maybe 3 little Vulcans. That's a really good setup. because they can go feed off the bigger ones and get stuff and help transfer them. If the Crucible is repairing a big ship, the Vulcans can help. So I think it really, what we said earlier, comes back. The versatility is going to be a really big thing. Simply in my book.
What do you think we're going to see in the Q&A? Do you think we'll get any curveballs that will change your opinion too much?
I think we're going to get a lot of questions of drones. That's the first thing that came in, because like, even like when you and I first started discussing this, like I'll just give you guys a little bit of backstory. When we talk, I try and not get these guys to talk, because then when we get on the show, it's not as cool. So we try to do it like off the cuff, and it comes across more naturally. So he just started going straight into drones. I'm like, oh, I gotta stop. But
we don't even do show notes for ones like these.
So
we need to be more spontaneous.
It just makes it more natural and it flows better. But like, getting back to the drones, I actually think it's going to be a really interesting thing to see where they go. And now I've seen drones on this ship, I'm kind of surprised. Let's be honest. I would have liked to have seen 2 drones on the Terrapin for searching. I think it would have made it makes sense to me.
They never made specifically having like forward scan drones or like surveying drones. If they had, then yeah, the Terrapin would have been nice. Even just one drone would have been nice.
You know, you come up to the edge of a cave or something like that.
They don't seem that big, though.
The Terrapin can't fit in.
Got a lot of room. You know, it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
I guess one of the real questions, again, a drone question, is can you take a drone and put it in the cargo of another ship and then release it out the hatch in space? You know, without a dedicated drone bay. And, you know, I think that's going to be an interesting... I hope that question gets asked. Because the Q&A is not going to be even up until after the concierge sale, is it?
Yeah. I think they're doing that deliberately, though, because the Q&As, you start to see some negativity and stuff like that. And the one thing, it kind of hurts them, though, in a way, like, because think about the Hawk stuff. The Hawk was pretty much almost over. And then they released it, and it looked twice as good as it did previously. Like it went from being you and I remember the show. We both went from this ship is crap to this ship is really good. This
sounds like a really good ship. Yeah, I know. And it's like when you think of all the extra positivity that could have gone with that ship, it could have sold twice as much if that information had been at people's fingertips from the start. And, you know, it's not an opportunity. It's more of an opportunity as opposed to something that could go wrong. It's just that, or the people who write these Q&As are often a little. I hate to say it, but you know.
Yeah, that I know I keep talking about Director Drake, but he keeps bringing up good stuff. But another really good thing he's put there. So that's the type of questions I want to see asked in the Q&A. They never bring up this negativity, and I know good gameplay has balance and it has really good positivities and really good negatives, and they balance, right? And they never ever mention negativities at CIG because it doesn't sell well, right? That's a really good question he's put there. So he's got huge Q&A question. How much fuel can be ready for a fuel ship from here to little tanks we saw in the cross section? So that's another really good question. Like, if you're refueling with a Starfarer, that can redo an Idris. This thing probably won't even allow an Idris to do one jump. Then a Super Hornet, it probably can refuel a Super Hornet.
It's apple and oranges, or should I say apples and watermelons. Basically, this is not going to refuel a capital ship, but the size of that fuel tank might be able to refuel maybe 5 Cutlasses, because they probably have a much smaller fuel tank than that entire tank. So, you know, it's about targeting the right ship, you know, to service it. It's at the end of the day, it's things that can do it and things that's like, oh no, that's too big. It's like,
so it's like I said,
you need a Starfarer.
You need to. One of the things I really like about Star Citizen, and I don't even think the devs that do this enough, is you can logically think through how, just using the sizes of ships, how things are going to work. And it's how I come up with the answers I come up with, and I know Haze does the same thing. So if you can look there and see, okay, so we've got this massive Idris, what is the best way to go about this? And yeah, I can see drones going to help, but I think a Crucible is just going to
It's going to dwarf
totally
it.
defloor.
It's like,
Vulcan.
are you going to use a whole bunch of Vulcans to refuel an Idris, or are you going to take Starfarer? It seems pretty obvious in my mind.
Yep.
You just bring the one Starfarer, and it's got enough cargo in it, it could bring all your ammunition with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's all in one ship. It can transfer that cargo very easily. I mean, you got the nice Argo to bring all your extra ammunition aboard. At the end of the day, if you need serious repairs that the Idris can't do by itself with its Argo and repair arm, then you need to ask for a Crucible to come in and do some serious work.
Even if you took the size of the Vulcan out of it, right, and you went, here's the Crucible and here's the Starfarer, what's the ship between these two? Is it's a ship their size, but it carries fuel, and it has the, like a cargo bay they can land and repair, but it can't repair big ships because it doesn't have the arms of the Crucible, and it can't make fuel. But then you scale that down... Very quickly, it's a triple negative, not a double negative, and it has multiple positives.
Why wouldn't you have like one of these Vulcans coming off and requesting fuel off a Starfarer and then going off and selling it to several different people? It's just a bigger chain.
Yep.
You know, it's like a tree with the roots coming down, and it's just lower down on that rung, but they still interact with each other.
I actually had an idea for like a business in the PU or the universe called Triple R or something like that, and it's repair, reclaim,
recycle,
refuel. But I think that's why they wanted the 3 R's as well for this for the Vulcan, so they could go 3 R's: repair, reuse, recycle. But yeah, like I actually
it's a catchy sell line. I hope they use it in the brochure.
Yeah, but I can see why they've done this ship, because it's like a little service vehicle. It's a little support vehicle. It's in Australia we call it the RSCT, or the AAA or the AA in the States and the UK.
Queensland they call it RACQ, but yeah.
Well, I just call it the RAC now, because every state it's a different name. Depending on what the state starts with in Australia, it has a different name. So there's even an RACWA, which I think is insane.
Oh wow.
But anyway, that's a bit of an Australian. If you're an Australian, we get that one. But look, the ship itself, what it takes in negatives and gains in positives, makes it a very balanced ship for what it is. I think it's going to be a great little addition to the game. But I think things like what Drake said, and running out and selling all your reclaimers and stuff, I think that's a bad idea. I think maybe I'll be realistically and say a third of what you have is probably where I'd call it. Because I'm also expecting more medium level ships. I don't know if we'll see them
I think this is a ship people will either buy outright or replace from something they have. Can you imagine someone might have a Cutlass Blue and they say, I really want this ship instead.
Yep.
I think that's legitimate. This does everything that the Cutlass will, except for fighting, and the trade-off is huge.
I also think you need to look at the price point too, because...
What you think? You say it's competing with these $350 ships, even more for the Reclaimer now. I don't think it's competing with those ships at all.
No,
I think it's competing with Cutlasses and Freelancers.
Yep.
And maybe even Constellations. But I don't think it was ever meant to compete with anything else higher up than that.
I don't mean compete. I mean,
compete for people.
If you've already got one, I wouldn't go back to the Vulcan. That's what I'm kind of trying to say, because 2 Vulcans would still not be strong as 1 Crucible in my book, and the Crucible's cheaper, right?
But it's not meant to be. It's a multi-use sort of thing. Crucible's a one-trick pony.
That's right.
This is a ship that's meant to do many different things, and it's supposed to be like a Cutlass, a Freelancer, Constellation type class. It's meant to do that as a multi-role ship, and Crucible is not a multi-role ship. It's a one-trick pony.
That's right. Well, 2-trip, but small and large ships. But I get what you mean. But then you look at, say, something like the Starfarer. It doesn't have the full functionality of a Starfarer.
Yeah, Starfarer is an interesting case. Yeah.
So, is that something we could see in the future? A small refuel ship that's just refuel.
I think this is it.
I'm thinking it is too. I don't think we'll see another ship like. It'd be really cool if they did. And when I visualize it in my head, it would be Constellation size. But that's what originally
refueling.
Originally, the Starfarer was meant to be Constellation size, and it just grew.
Yeah. But I think this has enough fuel. I mean, it's got a very big fuel tank, and it's going to be able to refuel anything like constellation size and down, and that's all it's really aimed at.
What was it about? Was it a third or about a quarter of the length of the ship? That was a pretty. It was a pretty.
Third,
Yeah, it was a pretty big fuel tank.
Ship. It's a very big fuel tank.
So that puts a, I don't know, Merlin-sized fuel tank on it, probably.
But the thing is, other ships don't have fuel tanks that big. They may have like a small fraction of that to, fuel themselves with. This thing's done a huge fuel tank for the purpose of refueling. I think it's hit the mark.
You're really good at SCUs and packs and stuff like that. How did you find that the package that came with the one that came with the Eclipse, the 2 Warlock variants, and
that looks like terrible value because they put the reclaimer in there.
I did the math on it, and it seemed about $50.
Justifying it on the new price.
Yeah, it was about $50 to $60 overpriced from current prices.
It's nowhere near as generous as other packs.
No.
If anyone already had a reclaimer, you'd be crazy to melt it for this pack. It's a weird pack.
Yeah, also 2 Avenger Warlock variants.
LTI tokens at best.
Yeah. Avengers, you only need 1 ship, and you can just swap out the modules in game. I don't understand why there's 2 of them. It's like they didn't have. Like, it would have been better if there was 2 Vulcans and no Warlocks. That would have been a much better package.
And no reclaimer. Yeah, a double pack.
Yeah. And I know it's an Aegis pack, but it would have been, I would have preferred to have a Crucible than a Reclaimer. So, it's like a repair pack or something like that. Or a really cool one would have been the Starfarer, the Crucible, and 2 Vulcans. Sorry, the name is not stuck in my head yet.
Yeah, just think of the Yeah, you get it eventually.
Yeah, so
it's just the what was it called? Oh yeah, Vulcan. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so yeah,
I'm not impressed by the pack, but they should have done double pack. That would have been more popular because people love war bonds, especially the double war bond with an even better discount because then you can CCU it and then you've got that discount from the war bond on top of the discount from the pack, and people go, "Oh, I'm going to CCU 2 ships," and that's that flexibility that makes it useful.
Tell me about these refueling modules. Someone's mentioned in chat on the Hull C. What are the Hull series? I totally missed this.
Yes. You've missed this twice now because I've explained this. During the Hull series Q&A, there were 3 of them. They talked about how the Hull D, especially in the military, and also has refueling-based modules, where the entire back setup is set up for refueling, and the thing can be used as one big tanker. And they talk about how refueling on the Hull D and E is how they refuel most of their big fleets. So they have talked about Hull D and E's being able to set up with modular-based stuff you stick on the back to act as refuelers and resupplies.
One of the things with this game that I'm really loving over time is seeing how all the different ships are starting to interact with each other. So I can see that already. Massive Hull D, couple of Starfarers grabbing all this fuel and just feeding it to this big behemoth. That's awesome. Yeah, I think we're right. I don't think there is going to be another. I wish there kind of was. I wish there was a small ship that could gather fuel.
We've got the big mega refueler. We've got the Starfarer, which is good at gathering and also refueling bigger ships. And then we've got the little one, which is good for doing a little bit of all the little stuff. So you've got the different levels of the.
I could probably see a starting fuel gathering ship. One that can gather enough to say, help a Vulcan. I could see that.
At that point, you could put a fuel scoop on any ship, I think.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe, if you look at the Starfarer, the fuel scoop is specifically designed for it. So maybe, I don't know what you call it. I think the Billy Bash ship or something. It's like a massive mouth on it that just flies through the gas giants.
Now they've put the Vulcan out, I don't think we'll see it. I think they've made the decision.
I'm interested to see where things go. I'm interested to see what other ships come down the pipe. We know we're getting more utility ships. If I see another combat ship, I think I'm going to scream.
Yep, I feel like that way as well. We don't need more combat ships. We have all combat ships out their arse. We need utility and smaller medium ships like this ship, and we need more of them.
if you were to look at the big ships we have though, and you break it down, I think there's room for the smaller variants. So we've seen this one's the smaller Crucible, the smaller Starfarer. You've got your Reclaimer, and you've got your Orion. They're the only other two.
Vulture, I hope so, please.
And then you've got the Vulture, which is similar to the Reclaimer, but I think we'll definitely see a small. Well, you got your Prospector, I guess, as well.
Yeah, Prospector, small minor.
Maybe they are done. I don't know.
It
Once the
needs
Vulture
a Constellation class in these areas. Like these are small, medium ships. We need Constellation class in all of those areas.
Yeah.
You know, like mining, repair, maybe not repair, but you know, salvage and industry type ships. You know, they need Constellation class of those.
Kind of begs the question. Over time, they've talked about they're going to continually just keep making new ships over time. Does that kind of mean once the game goes live, are they going to do concept sales for new ships where to help keep funding development?
I think they will.
Is there going to be a ship that comes out just by its very nature that accidentally makes a ship that you already own redundant?
I think though, for balance reasons, you always want to avoid that. But I mean, there's so much variety. There's so much new industry they could expand on. They're just trying to cover the main industries now. But you know, eventually they might come up with roles which we haven't even thought of.
Yeah.
Someone
just asked in chat, can we CC you into a Vulcan? Well, if it follows traditional sale methodology, when it goes live on the 22nd, which is literally 6 days, so we get a whole week of concierge pre-sales, which is crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
I would say that's when the CCUs will be available, Willie.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll be able to CCU it at that point.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this is concierge only, so the real sale does not start until the 22nd. Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah. Has anyone got any questions for us? Because I think we're almost ready to wrap this up. Unless you've got anything to add, Haze, or anything else you want to talk about.
No. Very much looking forward to the drone Q&A, which is basically what this is going to come down to. And I'm sitting on the fence if I want to buy this or not. I think I can scrounge up the funds.
Yep. I can. Money's not an issue, and I think you'll find money's not an issue for you either. It's just want versus need, and
want versus need. And do I think I'm going to fly this? If I think I'm going to fly it, I'll buy it.
Well,
if I don't think,
I'm almost to that point though now where I've got all these bigger ships. I can earn all the stuff underneath me. I'm doing it. Most people are like building up. I'll be like building down. Which I think is definitely
don't get me wrong. I don't own even like a third of all the ships in Star Citizen. I'm very selective about what I buy. But this is interesting, and this has garnered my interest more than most ships.
No, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can sometimes be a bit of a late bloomer too, because like I can kind of miss something, and then later on I see the appeal. Like, and I'll give you an example was when the Terrapin came out, I was so focused on the price of it that I just pushed it to the side. I went, this is a freaking rip-off. And then about a month or two later, I started thinking about what the ship is going to bring, and I went, oh shit, I need one of these ships. And
I think I was the one talking to you and caressing you into the Terrapin's going to be amazing, and because of this and this and this.
You were one of them.
Like, oh crap, Terrapin.
Yeah. There's definitely a few people that have done that.
I have to admit, Terrapin's like one of the few ships I have, and it's not because I need it. It's not because I can't earn it later in the game. I just want to fly it. I want to have fun with it, and you know that's one of those ships that I see as something I will use, something I'll enjoy, and that's where I want to own it.
I've just jumped onto Spectrum really quick. Now you can tell me if I'm in the wrong spot here. I'm just going to switch this over to my browser real quickly. Actually, I'm on the wrong browser. Hang on.
Hey, look, it's us on Twitch.
Yeah, and we're like live and stuff. Hang on. I'll copy this over to this, and then I'll switch back. There we go. And switching back to browser now. There we go. So these are the threads on the announcements. There's no Q&A thread up yet.
Yeah, well, they're not going to do it till... They could seriously do it now, but then they've only really shown this off to concierge members and not everyone, so they've put themselves in between a rock and a hard place.
I want to know from people that are not concierge too, does that kind of piss you off? There's like this week of exclusivity where obviously the images are all going to get leaked and all that, but it just seems now like it's almost like the game's starting to go behind a paywall. If you haven't put $1,000 in, you have to wait for your news.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what people have to say about that. Personally, I think extra weeks notice and warning is worth it, regardless you're a concierge or not. I think that there's some merit to that.
Yeah, so
I guess that's it. We're going to wrap it up now. We'll definitely do another show over the Q&A, the drone Q&A.
yeah.
He's like, you don't even have to put Vulcan in the title, just say drone Q&A.
I'm probably going to be honest and say I don't think we'll see the QA for almost 2 weeks. If they're not, well, you do the math.
I think you're right. I agree with you.
I don't agree with them doing it.
Put it in words.
Yeah, I know. Because if it's a week until it goes to normal backers, that seems so wrong to say that, to normal backers, then it'll be almost a week after that before we even see the Q&A, which is just...
it's ridiculous, yeah.
I think the Q&A...
I hope they do the Q&A where they put out first 10 questions and then give the community to answer questions that weren't answered in the initial.
Punishing people for waiting to learn information. You're actually relying them on blindly. And
all concierge sales are like that. It's like, throw money at us and we won't tell you anything about the ship, but look at the pretty picture and then give us some money. That's what the current first week sale is.
I'm going to put it in another game. It's almost like gambling with loot boxes because you don't quite know, like, oh, we're going to give you this ship and it looks like it did this, but you can guess what it does. And then, you know, like I think they need to be giving the details up front. And I understand why they don't do it because they think they make more money. But I actually think like a really good example is the Hawk. The Hawk sold more. You can actually see that sales went up after the Q&A.
Yeah, after the Q&A. Yeah. But I just think it's disingenuous to compare it to loot boxes. But I do agree with the idea that they're going to send more sales and that somehow the Q&A is going to affect that in a bad way, so they try to delay it to the last moments. Ideally, if they handle the Q&A right and they have good marketing teams to sell this, that understand the community, the sales should go up after the Q&A. Like the Hawk did is a good example. It's like you can get it right. They should, in fact, what was the last concept sale to come out?
Was it the Hawk?
Can't even remember. No, it wasn't the Hawk. It was like the Nova tank.
Oh, the Nova. Yeah, that's right.
They put the Q&A out on the first day and answered 10 questions that were obviously going to get answered. And then they waited over the new year until they did the next Q&A, and then the last 3 days had the answers from that Q&A. But the thing is, they split it up into 2 parts, and they answered the obvious questions, and there was a whole shitload of information for the entirety of the sale about the Nova tank. And unlike many other sales where we got jack all information, it was a really good, done Q&A. The sale had excellently large amounts of information about the tank throughout the entire sale. That was one of their best managed sales in the last 12 months.
They must have seen by now the data and see the spike when Q&As go out. Like maybe it's deliberate. Maybe they've realised that they can sell a lot of people stuff blindly. Oops, too late. You've already brought. Can't get your money back.
But then again, like some of the worst sales during 2017, like the 600i, was when Ben was literally in hospital, and he was supposed to be in charge of all of that, you know. And poor Ben Lesnick had to pick up the tab, and he's obviously not cut out for it. And it was a mess. So, you know, I don't think it was planned or premeditated, but you're right. They have so much room to improve. And let's say if they do the Q&A like they did with the Nova tank for the Vulcan, I hope they live up to that standard, because they really set the bar up very high after that Nova tank Q&A and the amount of information they gave us right from the get-go. It's good.
It still feels like a disconnect with CIG. Like there's this, how do I put it? Like there's the community management people like Disco and all that, and then you've
marketing's even lower down,
and marketing
doesn't talk
don't
with
even
anyone.
seem to know the game, and then you've got Chris Robertson, the developers and all that. I think there needs to be a more I'd love to see, and I don't care how they do it, like almost rotating different community people in. They fly them over, and they go, all right, today we're going to be talking about this vehicle. What type of questions would you want to ask us? And they do an interview and release it. And then next month they pick someone else and they do one. And because the community people have just got such a better heartbeat on it. And I don't care which creator you look at, whether it's us, Board Gamer, Noobifier,
anyone.
Just
pick someone with their head in the game.
Just
and
don't
they'll
pick
be able
Dan.
to give you the information, you know, that everyone's probably desperately wanting.
Just don't pick Dan Giesling like they did last time, where nobody knew who he was, and yeah. Pick people.
I actually like some of his live streams.
His stuff is good. And I must admit, after he came out, I went, okay, he must know something about this game. So I went and checked him out. He's okay, right? But you need to, if they'd set from the get-go, oh, we're going to do random people every time, there wouldn't have been such... The fact that you picked one person to represent everyone and you didn't give us a say-so, like if they had a vote thing and people got to vote on it...
And pulled it out of a hat and like, oh, look, it's Dan Giesling. Yeah, I fully agree. They are very selective for who they choose as their community content people to bring on, though. They don't vote it or pull it out of a hat. It's sort of like they're saying... and I hate to say this, they pick yes men. They will only put on very selective sort of people because they don't want anyone who would ever give them any sort of a bad rap on even anything. You know, they're very afraid of that.
I think that's probably the thing that we do a little bit more differently here is you need to be able to take the good with the bad. And one of the things I learned from my time in games development was, I'll put it to you this way. If I'm making a 3D model of whatever, a clown, whatever, and I'm making it, and you come up to me and you tell me everything that's awesome about it and walk away, I'm on cloud 9 thinking it's awesome, right?
Yep.
But then someone else comes up and says, this is shit, and then walks away. Now, most people would go, that guy's a freaking asshole. But you learn over time in games development, what he's actually said to you is, you fix this and you fix that, that's awesome. And that's way better feedback than someone that just sugarcoats it for you and tells you all the good things. Because
there's a middle ground. Like, I have to say, like, there's some YouTubers out there and other content creators who they're so far negative that I can't stand them. And then there's other ones who are just nothing but positive. You want someone who meets it in the middle. And
that's
they say,
right.
This is good, this is bad, and you know, I'm calling it as it is. This is my thought.
Well,
you know?
The point I'm trying to say is there is room for negativity, and you need to be able to...
constructive negativity.
Constructive negative criticism. You need to be able to take that on board, because what they're really trying to tell you is they see something wrong with it, and if you can fix it, it'll make it better. And I think CIG are getting a lot better at it, but I also think what makes it hard for them is sifting through genuine good ideas and people that just want everything, and you can't have that. So they have to... The sheer amount of feedback they're getting, I think a lot of the good ideas do get lost. I also do think the community does, though, a lot of, like, as a positive for the community, when a good idea comes up, we do tend to kind of push it to the surface. I
also think they've got problems with Spectrum where it's such an amazingly hostile environment that if you even do anything that could be considered criticism, the mods literally delete that information, even if you did it in a positive and constructive format. So that basically their entire community tools are not supportive.
I'm not a fan of the mods on there. I think they're too
criticism.
They're too powerful. I'll tell you, this is the last time I went on there, right? This guy out of nowhere started attacking me, right? And as soon as I replied, I got muted. But he was the instigator, so I was like, "What?" Like, so I just, there's a double
it's such
standard.
A chaotic mess.
Yeah,
I've never been in a community forum that was so they cut things off before they even develop into something, just because they think this topic is too heated. It doesn't matter if the other person hasn't even said anything. We're just cutting it off.
And in this day of the internet, when you do stuff like that, it forces people to go... So as soon as they cut
just
something
go to Reddit.
Off, they go to Reddit, and you see comments about, oh, they just removed this. So obviously...
And I hate to tell you, Reddit is seen by a lot more people than people browsing the Spectrum community forums.
How many posts... How many posts have you seen about... I read one only the other week that Chris Roberts was reading Reddit on the train on the way to work, and someone was sitting there talking to him. Because that's where the real people go. They don't go to Spectrum. And
frankly, there are nastier trolls on Spectrum than there is on Reddit, because the Reddit mods are actually really amazing.
Yeah,
and they go down and ban them and bury them under a ton of bricks, and if it ever gets out of hand. And the Spectrum moderators are completely unable to replicate or do anything on the site. They believe in absolute moderation, where they just remove anything and everything, as opposed to Reddit, where they say this is inappropriate behavior. You're not welcome.
You need to be able to take that. You need to be able to take that negative criticism and put people at ease. And it comes back to the sales as well. They need to give that information to put people at ease until they are buying a good thing, not just like tricking people. And then in the last couple of days, going, all right, now you can buy it. Here's the info. Look, I think with mods, I think a much better idea would be to have someone that's just nominated by a large org, so you know that person
it's never going to happen.
Is representing a large group of people, and that they are putting that person forward. I don't like that they've just nominated somebody that's been there a really long time. That is not a good way to pick someone that is unbiased. Yes, that moderator may be biased to that large org, but if they're coming from different groups, it's almost like the politics in the real world. You're getting different representatives from different places, and if one of them is too hard, the other person's going to go, well, that's not right, and they will regulate each other.
Anyway, I think we need to nail this in the bud. We are so off topic.
I know. But we're going right round. All right, so we'll call it here today. We're going to be in Discord for the next 15, 20 minutes. If anyone's going to be around, we'll chat to you then. If you... I can't remember the usual spiel. Do you want to take over, Haze? Because you're really good at this.
Okay, and that's wrapping up the end of our show. If you like us, subscribe on YouTube. Give us also a like. If you have any other questions that we have not answered or you do unanswered, you can put them in the comments down below on our YouTube channel. We also have a Discord channel now, which is also in our... it's on the YouTube page. And so if you have any questions and you want like a one-on-one with us, you know, try our Discord. Hit us up in our Discord. And as always, we'll catch you around until next time.
Oh, hang on. I've just got to copy this link and post it in chat. There's the Discord link, everyone. All right. We'll catch you around and hopefully see you next week after the Q&A. All right. Bye-bye.
Adios.